Welcome, everybody, to tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting. It's Tuesday, March 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have first by Alder Rostad, second by Alder Meyer. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda approved. Do we have anybody for public comment? We do not. All right. New business. Discussion regarding ordinance 813-26 to repeal sections 30-51 through 30-53 of the city code and to create sections 30-51 through 30-54 of the city code concerning the management of Hillside Cemetery. Alder Meyer? Well, do we need, sorry. Matt, do you want to introduce?
All
You
I
had your
was
light
going to
on.
say is Paul is here to assist with any questions related to this topic.
Okay. Alder Meyer?
All right, so I'm going to make this brief. I had a whole type up ready to go, but I'm not going to turn to it. Just going to say that anything where there's financials within the city, we should be tying those to the city, and we should be operating them through the city's standard processes. I also believe that some of the behaviors of our sitting secretary on this association and chair do not embolden the values that our citizens should expect from people who are representing committees, commissions, etc. And I fully support repealing this and turning this back to the city.
Alder Lawson?
So we've got two questions about the recreated items here. If we go down to 30-52B, we have a bunch of fees in here, really related to the niches, but we don't have fees for other things. They live in the fee schedule. So if we're going to change this, why wouldn't we move everything to the fee schedule at the same time?
Do this. Hey there. Good evening. It's really a pleasure to be here. To answer your question, the entire part about 30-52 is totally taken from the existing Hillside Cemetery Association bylaws. Pretty much, well, about 99%, and I tweaked a couple words here and there. And I put it in just like it is in order to set up some regulations, rules, standards for the new public safety, or for the public safety committee to have something to start with. So to be very honest, the entire 30-52 can be removed if you wish, because it doesn't, it's not a necessary thing, but I think it is a necessary thing, because right now the public safety, or the public spaces, the public spaces committee doesn't have anything to go on. There's no history, there's nothing. So I thought the continuity and the historical would be good. To answer your direct question, that is the answer to the direct question, is I just took those right there. The columbarium had specific dollar amounts attached. Other places in that section and in the ordinance, it provides pretty much what is done in other places within the city, where the city council by resolution adopts fees and then it gets built into the schedule. So that's why, and that can easily be adjusted either way.
Okay, then my other item was under the chapel use and rental. The last sentence of that says, to make arrangements to rent the chapel, please contact the committee chair. But I think we may want to have that say the, what's the front facing position that we have now? The admin and billing clerk. That was it.
I signed a whole bunch of duties to people that probably don't know they're being assigned duties. The city clerk is getting some jobs. And again, I had to put something in somewhere. And I'm very happy to adjust that however you want. I figured that somebody at City Hall is a better candidate than the Public Spaces Committee Chair because they are harder to find. So I picked on Susan in a lot of places.
Okay. What I'm hearing is there's still one space that needs to get updated. Okay. Alder Meyer.
So I agree with Alder Lawson completely. I do want to see that ad that he spoke to. I also forgot to touch on that if we're going to continue to have representation and liaisonship to this committee, this association, with their suggestion of a change in representation, I would volunteer to be that liaison.
In my mind, if this ordinance goes through, the Hillside Cemetery Association is completely separate and disconnected from the city, and the city council has nothing to do with it anymore. Two things that are important to remember here. This ordinance does not affect the Hillside Cemetery Association at all. The association is a self-standing entity. I'm not exactly sure how they are organized, but they have been organized since 1911, based on what I have found. And they are a standalone entity that can continue to do whatever it wishes. And if that ultimately ends up as being a fundraiser or a volunteer force to help in the cemetery in some way, shape, or form, that needs to be figured out. But anything that you do with this ordinance doesn't eliminate them, or that entity, sorry.
Alder Rustad.
I guess I'd like to just to get some stuff in the clear. And now, obviously, I was prepared, but I can't seem to find. I'm going to discuss your memorandum that was addressed to the city council and the administrator. In here, I had it, but now I can't find it. You referred to, it was your opinion that ownership of the cemetery was the city's. And when you say your opinion as in your profession as the lawyer of the city, correct?
Correct. We have, this whole thing started, well, it didn't, let me rephrase that. One of the first issues that we looked at between me and Matt and other city staff members was exactly who owns the cemetery, because that's a very important designation. And if you look on the Columbia County website, it will tell you that the Cemetery Association owns the land that the cemetery sits on. And if that was true, that would send this entire conversation down one path. And if the city owns the land, then that sends the conversation down a completely different path. So we hired Wisconsin River Title Company up in Portage to do a title search. They have come back and said, we have found at least 4 different deeds that are all from various landowners over time to the city in order to create the cemetery. We have not found any deeds that suggest the Hillside Cemetery Association has any ownership in the land itself. So that tells me, well, I have to rely on what the title company has said. They searched the records at the courthouse, they searched the records at the Register of Deeds office, and that is what they have found. So I have to go with that.
And then, if this resolution does go through, we still have to discuss the funds, and I just want some clarification. So, if this goes through, it goes to the Public Spaces Committee. The association at that point has to approach the public spaces to do anything in the cemetery, correct? So therefore, it'd be my recommendation that all funds are placed on in the city, on the city side, with our finance team, and 'cause they can't spend it without our approval anyway. So there's no need for funds to be outside the city hall walls, in my opinion. Another thing, I guess, to Marcus's point, I agree that this does not dissolve that association. But per their bylaws, it states in there that if they do dissolve, it comes back to Fund 235 and then gets dispersed out of there. So if we can put it in that fund line item to match the thing, I think we'll be okay there. My other concern, to Marcus's point on the liaison, I don't want to argue with the attorney because he is the attorney, but until they have a meeting and change their bylaws, the city's still a representative to their bylaws. So we need city representation at that meeting until the bylaws are changed. And again, it's my recommendation that either Alder Meyer or President Finkler fulfill my position at that position.
And I certainly would not argue with what Alder Rostad just said. If the association bylaws have space, and they do, in their board for a city liaison, then that should be continued to be filled. I would not be surprised if at some point in time that position goes away, but until it does, then I would agree.
I'll just add, all cemetery funds are held in Fund 235, and that would be the intent moving forward. That is the special revenue fund that cemetery operations are set up in. We do have there is a fund balance there, and that all funds should be utilized at Hillside Cemetery.
Alder Lawson?
So speaking of funds, when you look at section 30-54, there's a part B that basically says all the funds get turned over, and then the committee may make recommendations concerning the future use. So we're talking about the Public Spaces Committee at that point, right?
Correct.
So when the funds are all settled where they need to be, wouldn't we just create a budget for the remainder of the year and then have everything follow on a normal budget process? That if it's a budgeted item, it gets paid. If it's under the threshold amount, if it's over, then it goes to council. Yes, okay. Is that, I'm not sure if this reads that same way, but if that's the intent, then I'm good.
I guess just to touch on Alder Lawson's question, the funds I'm concerned about are the donation funds from a deceased individual. Everything else, I'll agree with you, it's a budget item, so it's through there. We can just roll that budget, I think. We can play off of that budget. But the concern I have is the donations that are given to the association or to the city, or however they were given. I mean, I think that's been a slippery slope too, is who have they been given to? Is it the association or is it the city? I don't know if we really know fully, so.
Donated funds can and will be tracked in our accounting software, and hopefully Kendra's nodding behind me.
She is.
But that can all be set up and tracked appropriately accordingly, so that we have record of how those revenues came in and then what expenditures are tied to those donated funds.
Alder Meyer?
So I'm looking in here, and we have the Edward Jones that we brought up in the last meeting regarding this. The reinvest CD of 26,000, is it finances will, or is it the plan currently to move that money to the rest of the regular city accounts, or do we plan to keep it in?
So, the current money market, it was set to close here in January to be renewed, so my plan is to take it and put it into the perpetual care fund as it was a donation for perpetual care.
Perfect.
Mayor?
Under 35.2 with what Alder Lawson mentioned on the pricing, that's, being that it's in the ordinance, after item number 2, where it says no more than 2 burials are permitted per niche, you could put a statement in there that these are subject, these amounts are subject to change, and leave it at that. Because being in an ordinance, they'd almost have to stay if you didn't put that statement in there.
Yeah, it'd be my recommendation to remove all the fees from this ordinance and address fees in
Okay.
the fee schedule, so that when we make a change, we're not then having to revisit this ordinance and change 2 documents.
Any other discussion? Oh, Alder Rusted.
So in the event this goes through, we take ownership, or we take it back tomorrow, tonight? How does this work? Okay,
Yeah,
It's always-
ownership will not,
Change, right.
doesn't change at all.
so, but the fees, if we don't have fees on the fee schedule, we do. I know that we do, but the niches and stuff, is that all on the fee? Okay, perfect, thank you.
Any other discussion? Good moving this forward? All right. Next, discussion regarding tasking the Community Development Authority to provide a feasibility report on the development opportunities for 1149 West James Street. Is this Matt? Okay.
Yeah, Alder Lawson had talked to me kind of conceptually about this. I think it is a good idea. This is essentially what CDAs do, and we have vacant property that I think we need to have a full understanding of what the potential are. I think that's best done through CDA. I know in talking with Mike, this is the kind of work that we want our Community Development Authority working on, and they can determine what is the best use of that site and bring back a report to the council.
Alder Meyer.
So we're currently using this building to store the LESO items, correct? Right? The countryside.
Correct.
So what is our time frame, right? I know this is just a study, but I would like to know what are the expectations that we're sending to CDA? What is the completion time frame, and what do we truly want to see come from this? Right? I don't want to send something to the CDA when we have equipment there that I don't think any of us up here should support moving until the stuff is sold off.
I'll just couch that with a year ago, we reached a purchase agreement with a potential developer, and we were making arrangements to get that equipment and items stored elsewhere. And I think everyone involved wants to see us maximize our economic development opportunities. And if CDA comes back and says this is one, then I think we work with the police department, fire department, on where the equipment that's stored there can go, but that shouldn't be a hindrance to economic development if we have the right opportunities.
I don't disagree with that comment, but I also want to make sure that we're doing right by what we have in that building currently and at the most cost-effective rate, right? I'm not going to support having DPW go out and build a shed to store a Humvee in, things of that nature when we currently have it, right? So I guess I'm looking for, we can follow up after this meeting or offline, but I guess I want to see what is that time frame that we're looking for the CDA to turn this around in, and what the goal is, the 30, 60, 90, for example, following this.
And again, I think that's the council's discretion as to what kind of time frame, if any, you want to give CDA. My guess is they probably need to have an initial discussion about this to determine kind of how long it's going to take to entertain this scope too. And maybe instead of putting a timeline on them, let them review what time they're going to need to adequately address this.
That's fair.
When is the next CDA? Is it on the agenda?
It is the third Monday.
So the agenda's not out yet, probably.
So that there's still time to put an initial discussion of this on their agenda.
Okay, perfect. Alder Rustad?
Yeah, did we, everything's kind of run together with that countryside building. Did we already do a study on that prior to the public safety? Or was it just the public safety, they did their little scope into it?
When Bray was doing the feasibility study, they looked at kind of what the ideal site was and ruled it out because of the needed acreage. It didn't meet that.
So there's no study on
No.
the shelf somewhere
No.
for this building?
Correct.
Perfect, thank you.
The closest thing would be the purchase agreement that we approved last year. They had done some initial work, but I wouldn't call that a study like this, and that was on their work, not the city's.
Yeah, and then the only other thing that we did with that was the demolition quotes or bids, right? And that was in preparation to the developer's agreement. That all ties together.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with our city administrator that, let CDA give us a time frame because they're going to take this, they're going to look at it, they're going to look at what their scope of work is, and they'd be the better ones to come back and give us a potential time frame. And this is what community development authorities do. And it's good for them to go through this. And that'll help with other things that happen around town here as we move forward, especially with the public safety buildings, so.
All right, any other discussion on this? Good moving it forward? All right, that's it. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we got first by Alder Roki, a second by Alder Meyer. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Are we all set to go right into the next meeting? All right, here we go. Okay, welcome to everybody that's here, and welcome to those that will watch this on video later on. And may I have a roll call, please?
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Meyer, second by Alder Rosted. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, public comment?
There is none.
Okay, thank you. You have committee minutes for file, would be library of January 20th of 2026. And then next would be consent agenda, which is committee of the whole and common council meeting minutes of February 17th of 2026.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Roki. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next would be to move on to ordinances, and it would be the consider and take action on ordinance 813-26 to repeal sections 30-51 through 30-53 of the city code and create sections 30-51 through 30-54 of the city code concerning the management of Hillside Cemetery.
I will move.
First, I would look for a motion to suspend the rules.
I will move to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Meyer, second by Alder Rosted. Any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, do you have a statement?
Were we gonna take out the fees
I was going to put that at that.
at that
Final
point?
motion.
Okay.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next would be to waive the readings under section 2-46.
Move to waive the readings?
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rossad to waive the readings. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next would be to approve action on ordinance 813-26 with the fees removed.
I'll move to approve ordinance 813-26 with the removal of the fee schedule.
Do we also have to change the one roll in there also?
And the change to reflect Alder Lawson's suggestion in the roll.
I'll second.
Motion by Alder Meyer, second by Alder Roki. Any further discussion on this? Alder Rostad?
I guess I'm a little stickler on some rules, so we still have to make sure that they're following their bylaws, and that means that the city is informed for the postings of meetings. So I'd like to make that just knowing that it's posted here and part of their bylaws.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor then?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Then next would be,
Alder Lawson's suggestion for the person to fill that one position. Thank you.
all right. Then on to item number 4, which is resolution number 5-26, providing for the sale of approximately $5,280,000 electric and waterworks system revenue bonds, Series 2026A.
I'll move to approve the sale of approximately $5,280,000 electric and waterworks system revenue bond series 2026A.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Meyer. Do we need, we got Greg here, so.
Greg and Ariana are here. I think we want to let them kind of talk you through this and answer any questions you may have.
Good evening. Greg Johnson from Ellers. My colleague Ariana Schmidt is here with me this evening as well. She's been working with me on the financing plans along with city and utility staff. She's going to walk through the water and electric revenue bond issue, and then I will cover the next agenda item. So Ariana.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So the pre-sale packet before you tonight, it's also displayed on screen. I believe this is the cover page if you've all seen this. Just a couple quick highlights. Biggest difference between the 2026A issue and 2026B is the pledge. So being that this is for electric and water revenues, or excuse me, projects, these will be pledged by the water and electric revenues. So that's why you'll see it structured as revenue bonds rather than general obligation notes. These are being issued for 20 years. However, as you'll see on a couple slides later, some of the projects with a shorter lifespan are structured over a term of 10 years to better suit the life of those projects. So Table 1 and Table 2 are the full CIPs, including all of the projects and the costs, as well as the delineation between the 20-year versus the 10-year structure for each. So if you have any questions about those, we can talk through them. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving here. Table 3 really talks through the sources and uses of the financing plan. So the very top, what you see are the total project costs for both utilities, again broken out by electric 10-year and 20-year, water 10-year and 20-year. There's also a requirement with revenue bonds for a debt service reserve fund to be held by the city. So that's what you see there, that additional fund deposit required for the issuance of the new revenue bonds. And then when you go to market for open market securities, there are a variety of players involved in the process. So you'll see the cost of issuance expenses listed hereafter. All of that gets us to the total net size at the very bottom of that $5.28 million. Moving forward to Table 4, I'll just touch through this very briefly, but this is really the amortization schedules of the bonds, again, breaking it out by term. So 20-year bonds in total, some of which will amortize sooner than that in 10 years. Biggest thing I really want to hone in on are the tables hereafter, starting with table 5. So when you issue revenue bonds, there is a revenue bond covenant that the city enters into in which you are required to maintain certain debt service coverage. What that means is you have $1.25 of net revenues available for every $1 of revenue debt service. So this is pledged on a dual basis, meaning both the water and electric utility revenues play into that calculation, as well as both debt from the water and electric utilities. So what you see here is that calculation. We take into account your existing revenue debt that the utility has outstanding, plus the incorporation of the amortization schedules of this new debt being issued before you, and that gets us to your total. So as you can see here, over the next 20 years, you are well above that $1.25 requirement. With that said, although it is a dual pledge, each utility you want to ensure is self-sustaining, meaning the water utility isn't relying on the electric utility to pay its portion, right? So the next 2 slides break this table out into each utility individually. Again, this is not the bond covenant, however, this is a best practice in terms of what you're maintaining. So on the water side only, running that same test, you can see you're still well above the $1.25 with your current rate revenues. This is with the incorporation of the 2026 revenue bonds before you tonight only. Same thing with table 7 on the electric side. Again, you are well above that $1.25 range. What we really want to talk through is table 8 and 9. As the utility is not just issuing these revenue bonds for these projects and never doing projects again, right? There's going to be more projects. So in partnership with staff, we've incorporated the costs of estimates for future projects through 2030, and we've built out financing plans for those issues as well. So what you see listed before you on the left-hand side under proposed revenue debt is the future revenue debt payments for issues all the way through 2030. When we take a look on blue in that revenue bond coverage side on the left, just the water utilities alone, incorporating all future debt, you can see in 2031 that debt coverage dips below $1.25, getting to $1.11. Why is that important? This is really to prepare you for the fact that in order to continue issuing debt and funding new projects, you're going to need to consider a rate revenue increase on the water utility forthcoming. So water utility is regulated by the Public Service Commission. You don't get to set your rates. Public Service Commission tells you what those are. However, you get to pick, for the most part, when you go in for that rate case. There are simplified rate increases that really keep up with inflationary increases. And then there's the full rate case, which is a little more time investment from the utility and staff. But really, that's what gets you to the larger rate increase, which will likely be necessary. So Ellers can run long-range cash flow analyses, which help incorporate this to help you project out when the best time is for you to go in for that rate case and help you prepare for that. Because it really takes a full year before you can implement that new rate increase. So we just kind of wanted to prepare you that this is something that will be necessary in the near future. Obviously, as your capital improvement plan changes, this will adjust as well. So something to keep at the forefront in the coming years. On the right-hand side, the reason that you see all-in coverage as well is because the utility does not just have revenue debt. There is also general obligation debt that the utility pays. So practically, while you only mandatorily need to meet the revenue bond coverage, that doesn't incorporate general obligation debt. However, at the end of the day, the water utility should be making those debt service payments for all of its debt outstanding, regardless of pledge. So the all-in debt coverage takes into account that existing debt service, regardless of pledge. And again, you can see in 2031, that dips below. Because this isn't the bond covenant where you need $1.25 for every $1 of debt service, we recommend all-in debt coverage is at minimum a 1-to-1, meaning you can sustain those expenses. So same time frame, about 2031, where you dip below that coverage point. Again, just keeping in mind that this is something to keep an eye on moving forward. And then same thing here for electric. In table 9, but you can see you stay well above the coverage on both an all-in and a revenue pledge here moving forward. Not to say you should just disregard electric forever because this capital improvement plan will change, but to say that coverage is in a healthy position moving forward. So with that, I will pause for questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
So, we need to approve this one. So, we had the motion and the second, so is there any other further discussion on this? And hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is this a roll call?
I think it's roll call, correct?
Is it a roll? Okay, all right.
Meyer,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Rostad,
Aye.
Finkler,
Aye.
Relke,
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0.
Okay, then we will move on to item number 5, which is resolution number 6-26, providing for the sale of approximately $5,830,000 general obligation promissory notes, Series 2026B.
Move to approve resolution number 6-26.
Second.
Motion by Alder Meyer, second by Alder Rostad. And before we go, questions? Greg?
Thank you. Good evening. So this is the part of the financing that deals with city capital projects, stormwater projects, and for 2026 sewer projects. So before we look at the impact of the proposed notes, Table 1 that's up here on your screen in the pre-sale report, this is a summary of the city's existing general obligation debt outstanding and how the city repays those existing principal and interest payments. So on the far left-hand side is your total principal and interest payments on existing general obligation debt outstanding. And then there's some other expenses within your debt service fund related to debt management that are paid out of your debt service budget. And then the city budgets several non-levy revenue sources to repay some of that general obligation principal and interest. So there's some general obligation debt supported by the water and electric utility, the sewer utility, stormwater fund, and then there's debt service related to TID 4 and TID 7. And then the city budgets some special assessment revenue to help cover some of the debt service payments. And then there's some investment income and fund balances applied. So in that net tax levy column, that shows your existing levy for debt service before we look at the impact of these proposed notes. So your levy for debt service in the 2026 budget was approximately $1,089,798. So in the subsequent tables, we're going to look at how that changes with kind of a 5-year lookout at your capital improvement plan. So to that end, in Table 2 is kind of the detailed capital listing of projects on the city side for your CIP. So the only projects that are being financed are what are shown in the 2026 column, but we like to look at debt issuance in a multi-year context. So we show projects from 2027 through 2030. When I was here last fall, when you were going through budget deliberations, we essentially presented a plan very similar to this, but we've updated the 2026 projects to reflect your final project costs. So you'll see, future project costs from 27 through 2030, which are included for planning purposes, but are not incorporated into this financing. So on Table 3 is the sources and uses. This is very similar to what Ariana walked through on the water and electric revenue bonds. You have your project costs at the top. We identify the revenue source that's repaying the debt service, and then we have some stormwater projects and some sewer projects. In this analysis, we're showing the stormwater projects being picked up by the debt service levy, but you can attribute that to the stormwater fund or stormwater rates in the future. So the total amount that you're borrowing is $5,830,000. We show what's being repaid by the levy, amortized over 10 years and 20 years, and then the stormwater and the sewer components. So Table 4 is the debt service schedule for these proposed notes. So these are estimated interest rates. So again, we show the portion, the amortization term, and then what the repayment source for each portion of the debt issuance. So you're looking at total principal and interest of a little over $8 million, $75,000 over the 20-year life of the notes. So on Table 5 is the tax impact analysis. So this carries forward your levy for existing debt that was in Table 1, that's on the far left-hand side. And then we show estimated principal and interest payments for capital financings all the way out through 2030. So again, 2026 is the only debt issuance that you're considering authorizing this evening. The rest are shown here for planning purposes. So in terms of the impact of this proposed debt issuance, the debt service levy is projected to increase by about $283,000 from 2026 to 2027. That would take your debt service tax rate from $1.60 per thousand to $1.91 per thousand. So on a home for every $100,000 of value, that would be about $66 increase in terms of the portion of the levy for debt service. So in terms of that levy increase from 26 to 27, that's very comparable to what we presented during the budget deliberations last year when we were kind of preparing and looking at these initial financing plans. So the increase from 27 to 28 would be the public safety facility if that were to be financed. So again, all you're really looking at now is the 26 projects, but we'd like to model out where things are trending over the next 5 years. Table 6 looks at your general obligation debt borrowing capacity. So this is a limit within state statute that says the amount of general obligation principal that you have outstanding cannot exceed 5% of the city's total equalized value. So at the end of 2025, the city was at about 30% of its debt limit, projecting growth in your equalized value from 25 to 26. With this debt issuance included, by the end of 2026, you would be at about 40% of your debt limit. You'll see over the 5-year planning model with those projects financed with GO debt, you're kind of tapping out at about 56% of your debt limit. So the water and electric revenue bonds that we were financing separately that you just approved that resolution, that form of debt does not count towards this statutory debt limit. That's the primary reason you're utilizing it. It's because there's no legal limit on the amount of that debt that you can issue. Excuse me. Whereas on the general obligation side, you are limited to 5% of your total equalized value in terms of principal outstanding. In terms of kind of the general timeline for both of these issues, we're at the beginning of the process. The resolutions that are on your agenda, if those are approved, we'll proceed with staff through the debt issuance process. Both of these issues, your existing GO debt and your water and electric revenue bonds carry a rating with Moody's Investor Services. So we'll be having rating calls over the course of the next month, which staff will participate along with Ariana and myself. And then these notes and the water and electric revenue bonds are scheduled to sell on April 7th, and we'll present the sale results to you that evening for final award. And then the closing date, when the city gets the money in the bank, that will be April 23rd. So the action item on your agenda is the resolution for the GO notes. Happy to answer any questions on this portion of the financing plan.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Greg? Right?
He just referenced April 7th. Does he know our meeting's 8th that week?
Yes, our meeting will be held the 8th because the 7th is the election
Okay,
day.
we'll move it to the 8th.
Yep,
Okay.
good catch.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Greg? All right, then can we have a roll call on resolution 6-26?
Relke. Aye. Finkler.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Lawson.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0.
Okay, thanks very much, Greg.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Okay, next on the agenda is to consider and take action to approve the facade grant applications. Do you want an explanation before we go through a motion? Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
So you have 4 facade grant applications. Two of them, the 2 smaller ones would have been under the CD, would have been within the CDA limit. the two $25,000 grants. If combined with the two smaller ones or together, we would have had to come here. And since CDA thought all 4 projects should be fully funded, this would also this would exhaust the current line item for the facade grant, but then they'd also have to dip into their fund balance.
I'll just add that the fund balance policy that was approved at the last council meeting, this would fit and meet the definitions that were established in that policy. So this is permissible by the policy that's been approved by the council. But obviously the council has to decide if this is a good use of those funds. CDA has made this request at their February meeting.
A motion to approve the facade grant applications.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Russet, second by Alder Meyer. Any discussion on it? Alder Russet?
So what is the current fund balance at for a dollar amount? Do we know for CDA?
It's around 90,000, not including the investment account, which is an additional amount.
Okay. And how does a fund balance get replenished?
It gets
Well-
replenished for all the budget items, but if any unspent line items in the CDA budget, that just rolls over into the fund balance.
Okay.
So you have revenues
Yep.
and expenses. Whatever the positive is gets applied to the fund balance for use in the future.
Okay, so we're dipping in for 28,000 roughly into the fund balance. Just to prepare, what you think we're gonna have 28 to replenish that? Because if we don't have the money to replenish, we have to find, or CDA has to find a way to continue this without going into fund balance. Either we as a council need to front more money on the line item, because dipping in the fund balance is not always going to be the answer when we run out. And when you get to that threshold that we just approved, we have to combat what we're trying to do here. I get it, what we want to do today. I don't believe the city should be on the hook for all the projects either, but that's my belief. So we have to combat what we're trying to do. If the fund balance goes to zero, what are we going to do? We need to have a plan B, is my point, I guess. Or I would like it discussed, whether it's tonight or at a later date. But we can't always just dip in to the emergency fund or the fund balance.
Alder Lawson?
Yeah, so I agree. And I think we had a light discussion about that in our last meeting where, personally I'd like to see more of a budget there in the future for that facade grant because it's working. A lot of business owners in the area are utilizing it and it's catching on and it's making a difference. But we also talked about very briefly, there may be other ways to help fund that program. So we'd have to explore those, but obviously one of them would be to request more on that line item next year.
Any other comments from anybody? Alder Meyer?
Sorry, I was checking to make sure my mic was on. I see both the sides here. Do I want to see a larger fund balance or a fund balance? Do I want to see us blow the entire fund balance? Not really. Right? But that also tells us that we don't have adequate funding for what the true downtown needs for the facades are. So I would echo what Ryan says. I mean, I think I can support dipping in this time. I can't support blowing that entire fund balance in 1 year. I think that's a piggy bank to go to when something spectacular or whatever is in front of us. So I guess my ask is that we propose a budget that will sustain this program in a proper fashion in the next budget process.
Any other comments? I mean, I get the viewpoint from both sides. Now, granted, we've been talking about revitalizing our downtown, and if, you know, I don't want to call it dipping in, but those are funds there that can be used. And if this helps to revitalize our downtown, you know, we're making an investment in our downtown and putting some skin in the game. So, yes, we can talk about that, but for tonight, this is definitely worth following through with, in my estimation. So. With that, oh, sorry, Alder Reed?
Not at all. No, I'm just going to be in agreement that I would like to see larger allotment for facade, oh my gosh, facade improvements. One of the things that really got me interested in getting on city council was wanting to help out the downtown that in parts is, you know, just falling apart and a poor representation of the city. So I think it would definitely behoove us to, you know, just make it a little bit more of a focus in our finances, just to, you know, really support this program a little more in the future. But yeah, I'm fine with approving this tonight, and I'm happy that so many businesses are interested in taking on the program and making the downtown a more beautiful place.
Any other comments? Hearing none, then a roll call, please.
Rostad,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Finkler,
Aye.
Relke,
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Then next would be to move on and consider and take action regarding tasking the Community Development Authority to provide a feasibility report on the development opportunities for 1149 West James Street.
So
Move
moved.
to a
Second. Stamp.
Oh,
So
I
did
thought
you
he
take the-
took it. No.
Okay. So Alder Finkler, second by Alder Meyer.
No,
Or Rostad, sorry. All right, any other discussion on this item? Marcus? No? Okay, you just have it on, all right. Then, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Then next would be to consider and take actions on the claims in the amount of $1,235,001.88.
I move to pay the claims in the amount of $1,235,001.88.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Lawson, second by Alder Finkler. Any discussion on paying the claims? Hearing none, roll call.
Lawson,
Aye.
Rostad,
Aye.
Finkler,
Aye.
Meyer,
Aye.
Relke,
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 6-0.
Okay. Officer report?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay. My only report is that I had the opportunity to be out in DC last week representing our utility in the American Public Power legislative rally. We got to meet with Glenn Grothman and staff, Ron Johnson and staff, and Tammy Baldwin and staff. Our key priorities for that rally were to maintain affordability, protect electric reliability, which all tie in with the third issue, which was enact energy permitting reform. Right now, permitting to get big major projects accomplished ends up costing ratepayers so much more in utility and energy costs. And so it's trying to streamline all that stuff. And then to reform FEMA in order to, well, we've seen what headaches FEMA has been in the years past. So that's a big push to reform FEMA and make it better for all residents and utilities to move forward with after a devastating loss. So it was a great experience. I learned never accept a folder when somebody hands you one. So we need a
Second.
second. Okay, motion by Alder Meyer, second by Alder Finkler. Any discussion on adjournment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.